Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. We've picked a really interesting spot today, and it's probably one of the nicest places at the resort that we're at, and it's this view behind us. We're quite high up on a cliff. We're looking down to the beach, which is really nice, and you've got some interesting architecture that's quite old over there, and I think that's nice. And then we've got the palm trees behind, which is really interesting. So here's the little sketch that I've done in Bic pen, so it's an ink pen, and what I've done is I've exaggerated the picture quite a fair amount. In the real painting, the trees only come this high in line with the building, but I'm going to make them a bit bigger, a bit taller, and that's the beauty of watercolour painting and painting in general, that you can almost idealise a place and make it look better. So you can improve things, and that's one of the exciting parts of watercolour. So I've transferred that to the painting now, to the real bit of watercolour paper, and we're going to get on with it now. Right, so I'm going to mix some cobalt blue up for the sky, and I'm going to place that in first. So it's a question of working out how much cobalt blue. Make sure you mix it up well, otherwise you get big lumps coming in. Now it's another windy day up here, so we'll see how the sound works out, because there's a lot of wind coming in, which is different from last time. It was a sea noise, but this is wind and sea, so fingers crossed. Right, here we go, all the way across. That's it. Create some variety. Leave little patches. I like leaving little patches of white paper there, because that's what I'm trying to indicate as being clouds. So there's a few sort of speckledy clouds coming in, that I'm imagining. Maybe add a little bit of raw sienna just to give a little bit more change of colour at the bottom of it. Right. There we go, so that's the cloud done. The cloud's a really quick section of this painting. It never really takes that long. Right, so that's that first bit. So that was done with a mop. Right, so I'm going to paint the trunks in of the palm trees. So a little bit of burnt umber and ultramarine blue. It's so windy today that the paints are drying up on the palette very, very quickly. So I've really got to get a move on when I start painting. Right, so paint these trunks in first. Lots of interesting shapes. There are lots of them too. They crisscross each other. So they're sort of grey colour. So I need to paint those on first, because the background is much darker. So if I painted them on first, the background first, it would be a bit of a problem for me later on. Right, so there's lots of them. What I'm going to enjoy most about this painting is my exaggeration of the scene, and to improve it and exaggerate certain parts of it. That's what I feel is the creative side to painting, to creatively change the picture. Okay, so the next part that I'm going to focus on is the building on the left. I think that's a good start. So mid-tones first. So I'm going to put a wash of raw sienna and blue on it. So that's going to be the whiter parts of the brick. So that's all here, going down to the base. So I'll paint the bricks over the top of that. It's a question of really working out the order of things. Okay, now it's the shadowy part of the veranda, and that's going to be done hopefully in one go. It's a bluey colour, might add a little bit of red into it as well. There we go, so that will go down to there. Nice. I love these blues in the Caribbean, they're lovely things. So another, now for the, just trying to hint them in. The wind is on the paper at the moment, so it's with the warm wind, it's almost like a little hairdryer is going off constantly. So that's a new experience from Scotland. Okay, so as you see, I'm just trying to block in things at the moment. Not too complicated, nothing too complicated. And now I'm going to paint a little bit of the balustrade, which is a sort of creamy colour. That's it. The first tones of it, really. I'm going to move on, and I like to get things covered. It's not many watercolourists do it like I do. They're much more careful with their first washes, and they use lighter washes. Whereas I like to go and attack it straight away. I want to get the closest effect I can get immediately. Okay. So that's the part underneath. Okay, so I'll move into the balustrade bit again, painting that nice little section blue. I love the speed of watercolour. That's where watercolour is so great. There's no hanging around at all. If I were painting myself, I'd probably slow down a little bit if the camera wasn't there, because we do have a sort of time threshold with these pictures. So and I want to give a sort of spirit of what I'm doing as well, and to make people realise that you can get a lot done in a short space of time. So just trying to indicate little parts of it. That's nice. It's quite pretty, that. I love the way the colours are sort of moving around by themselves. Really nice. Soak that up. Okay, so now I'm going to go for the general green of the background here to try and pop this in. So it's not going to be too strong a colour. This is going to be a mid-tone colour. So a little bit of yellow, cerulean blue maybe, lots of different colours. Bit of Viridean, that'd be good. Get that all mixed up. So I've got lots of colours in there. So they're not mixed up into one colour. You'll see there's lots of colours in there. I don't need to mix them all up into one colour. It's definitely not what I'm about. So I'm trying to keep some of the trees in beforehand. So I'm painting around the trees a bit. See that? Painting over the sky too. I'm trying to keep some of the... I don't want to paint over the tree, the trunks. So I might miss some of it, have some white paper showing, but that doesn't matter too much. The sun's pretty hot, but the wind is a very cooling breeze, so my skin is quite Scottish. So that's a worrying thing for me, because when I don't notice I'm being burnt, that's when I really get burnt. So hopefully it won't be too bad. There we go. So just carry on trying to get in between those trunks. I suppose I could have put a bit of white paint in it later. That may have made it more simple. It's nice. Not trying to make it too dark either. Okay. Over to the other side. So you can see I'm painting a lot of the picture quite rapidly. And I think for painting plein air, you really just have to get it down. You can't delay too much, unlike the studio. And as a result of it, it has its own effect. It's unique. You have this feeling of immediacy with the paint. which I particularly like. Alright, so okay, so that's good enough. Okay, so that's the first layer pretty much there now. Now I'm going to try and get into the second layer as quick as I can, which is going to be the palm trees. And I'm going to get my smaller brush out. Yeah, so I'm just trying to get the shape of this fern in. It's quite fascinating. Change the colour again. So that was the blue sort of layer. Now I'm going to add the sort of yellow parts on top of it. Lots of short strokes and some bigger strokes as well, because it does have a mass in the centre. It's not all detail. And sort of popped in there. Put the trunk in. It's got a few coconuts underneath it. They're so pretty, these palm trees. They're a wonderful thing to paint. Love them. Okay, that's the first one in. And there are lots of them. So let's crack on as fast as I can. So again with the blue. It's got a blue centre. The darkness in the blue is so nice. They twist over. Because the wind is quite strong here, so it really does twist. Some palm trees that I've noticed are dead straight, absolutely dead straight. But by the coast here, then they're not dead straight at all. They're all over the shop because the wind's been buffeting them 24/7. And Barbados, from what I see, is a windy place, not a calm place at all. So there's going to be it's quite a while of painting these palm trees in. So all the way along the top there, and I do like them. So many ranges of colour in it. There's a lot of yellow actually. I don't know whether it's been burnt by the sun or I don't know. And they're next to each other. They're overlapping each other. So I'm just trying to hint at them. Okay, so there's quite a few palm trees at the top of the picture, and I quite like that. It's really worked out quite nicely. So now I'm going to bring in the rest of the palm trees. Right, so I'm going to have a go at the buildings now. Again, I would have loved to have done a bit more of it at the time. It's going quite dry this now, so I'm going to get in there. So burnt umber and ultramarine blue. What a surprise! Okay, so just trying to get this in. So it's a darker area. Lots of shadows. So we have a post coming in here, sort of part of the balustrade, and I'll do one there as well. And maybe one there. Then we have the line of the floor. There's a lot of detail in this, but I have to simplify it. I can't put too much time into it, so I won't finish it. Right, we'll work into the background now. Trying to paint in between the trees. With a feeling that there's trees coming out, so maybe a little bit more dry brush at the top, so it works its way into the sky a bit, so the sky can pop through. Trying to work as fast as I can because the wind is like a hairdryer, just drying everything so fast, which is great in some ways, but sometimes it can be just a little bit too dry. And then I'll add a few touches of colour in between. That's working out quite well, I feel. Painting plein air is intense, but I feel it heightens your senses. and it heightens your concentration as well. And I think that's a really important part. I'm painting in the foreground now, going as fast as I can. There are some. When you watch this video, there'll be a few sort of cuts in it, which you may think as being, well, why is he cutting at this point here? And the reason is we're right by a lovely swimming pool behind us, and there's a lot of people around, and they keep on coming up to me and asking my name and my YouTube channel and my email. So that's why there's lots of changes and in the context of the cuts. Right, so we're really cracking along with it now. Right, I need to rectify some of the trunks. So I like to have there's a strong shadow on one side, which I'm going to get on these now. So trying to get the little line on one side of the trunk. You can see how I've tried to keep the whiteness of the paper to tell me that's a trunk. And I think it's worked out quite nicely. That I might add a little bit white paint later, just to give a little bit more of that sense of the whiteness. And they are quite white, these trunks. So there's a little shadow coming in here of the rocks, as there is here underneath that. Trying to move it in. Bit of greenery coming on the left. One day I'll have a longer go at a painting as well, just to see what the difference is, to see whether it makes a difference to spend twice as long. I'm not convinced it's going to be twice as good. Sometimes the shorter you spend on the painting, the better it is. And I think that has something to do with speed and your confidence. And you just have to get on with it. You just have to get on with it. You can't really delay on anything, which I really like. Just getting the windows in of these. Pressure on. That looks like a window. And then you have a brown colour behind here of the veranda going round that beautiful old building. I like that a lot. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the wall. Hiya, how's it going? Okay, so I'm working on this now, the balustrade, which is quite a nice feature, I think. And I've introduced a little bit of alizarin crimson on it. I'm trying to correct myself with that name. I've never called it the right name in my life. Alizarin crimson. Okay, so trying to get a hint of the few bits of the balustrade in. You could paint that quite a long time. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is the balustrade of the building. So lots of blue. And maybe the sort of just a hint and a few sort of the crisscrosses of it. Just to give it the idea, really. That's quite fun. Okay, so I'm going to head to the building a bit, just to put in a few more little bits of detail on it, just to indicate the sort of brickwork. Nothing amazing. Something like that. Just soften that a bit. That's too white. When you start to put paint down, you start to realise that sometimes things can be a little bit too light or too dark, but it's only when you really get into the painting that you have those realizations. Right, I'm doing the little hut now, this sort of lifeguard's hut. Now it's in a green colour, but I don't think I'm going to paint some of it. Some of it's green because it's too close to the background. So I'm going to pick a cerulean blue on it as the main colour. A little bit of cream on it. So the front of it is in shadow. So I'm going to paint the front of it blue. And then the side of it is a creamy colour. So a little bit of brown maybe. There we go. Like that. Make sure my hat doesn't fall off. It really is windy here. Top as well. And now just let that dry a bit. And I'm going to paint in some shadows, trees here coming across the path. There's a little bit of lightness there. But it dries so fast, so hopefully I can paint over it in not short. Okay, I'll have a go now, see whether it's dry yet. So now the shape of that, maybe that's not quite dry enough. And the darker section here. Dark window. Darker still. Dark window. There's my hat trying to blow off all the time. Window on the side. I'm going to I'll throw my hat off. Okay. So got some things leaning up there. Now some steps in it. Just here, 1, 2, 3. And a blonde roof. Now there's lots of stuff on the beach. So what I'm going to do initially is paint a light colour all over the beach. Try and so it'll be a raw sienna. It sounds very, very white, so it won't be too much. It'll just be a little kiss of colour. Not much at all. So at this end of it though, there's a lot of shadow, so that's quite blue. So I'm going to take, this is going to be a much darker part of the beach. There's a lot of shadow. The shadows of the cliff that we're standing on. Okay. Right, so I'm going to put in a little bit of sea coming in as well. So I'm going to use that turquoise. So turquoise is Viridean and cobalt blue. To me that makes a good turquoise, and that's going to go in here. Give that sense of the water coming in, laughing away. So I'll add more to that in a minute. Right, so there's some nice umbrellas on the beach, which I'm going to try and paint a few of them. There's so many, I don't want to paint them all. So I'm just going to indicate a few along the beach. Sort of triangular type things. I'm going to paint them in red, which isn't their real colour, but I thought it would stand out a bit more because they're almost the same colour as the beach. So I'm going to make them a little bit of a different colour. Again, a bit of artistic license. And then the shadow, I'm going to paint in blue again. So the shadowy side of it's going to be in blue. See that? Just to give it a hint of what's going on. Hello. Okay, so I'm going to paint lots of the chairs that are coming into it now, underneath it, just to hint it. And most importantly is the little. I'm going to get a tiny brush for this because you've got the little stalk of the umbrella coming in. So we're going to paint that in nicely there. So that will really give it a sense that they are umbrellas. So boom, boom. Right, lots of little figures on the beach now, sort of underneath the the canopy, darker little patches, and just to give you the idea that there's something going on underneath. Lots of people walking along the coast, the sort of seafront. I can put a few of them in. I'm going to get a little bit of a sense of the sea coming in, again that Viridean colour. So maybe a little bit as well in the actual foliage between the palm trees. It goes into quite dark areas there. A little bit of burnt umber. Just to give it a sense that there's something quite mysterious and dark behind all that, which there is. Palm tree coming in here, palm tree here, maybe a bit of brightness to it, a bit of yellow coming in, just to really give that hint of what's going on. And then some bright blues as well. Working as fast as I can, and worth an experiment yourself. Try and working fast, see whether it changes your style a bit, which I know it will. So I'm going to put a little bit more detail into the palm trees. I love these blues that I put into these palm trees. I think they're really pretty. It's putting cobalt blue, pure cobalt blue into them. Gives that real sense of darkness underneath. And that really works. So now it's really coming to a finish now. So I've squeezed out a little bit of white paint, which, as you might remember, is the last thing I ever do because it dries so fast. So I have a few moments to use this paint and then it's gone. So the balustrade, I think, is what I'm going to focus on. So there's some light patches in there which I need to capture. So see that? So the nice light areas, and maybe a few to maybe grey it off a bit for the doors. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That was really nice. Yeah, I love that. It's worked out so well. There's a lot of yellowy colour there coming out. Love that. That's one of my favourite marks. That's good. Right, I think that's around about it now. I've taken stock of it and thinking, well, that's about it. So it's just maybe a few pencil marks here and there, but I don't know, that's not going to change much. This bit here, I think it would change it. I quite like to sort of get rid of that horrible, that line really. So that's going to change it. Maybe a little bit around the architrave, or that, and maybe a few marks on the beach. I'm going to sign it on the bottom right. So James Potter. There we go. I really quite enjoyed that. Intense, but I really enjoyed it. Right, there we have the painting all done now. And I like much of it. The part I love the most is the way that I made the trees a bit higher. That really added to it, and that made the actual palm trees the star of the show. So I like that part of it. You seem to go down into the picture a lot as well. I don't know how this video is going to come out because we're by quite a nice swimming pool here, so there's lots of people constantly walking past, and the amount of conversations I've had today with it, who knows? But it's been a lot of fun. I love talking to people, but it does make the video a little bit disjointed, but that's absolutely fine. So we'll see how that comes out. Another nice thing about painting outside, you don't get that sort of encouragement from people when you're in a studio. You're on your own too much. So this is really, really, really encouraging, and one of my favourite pictures I've done for a while, actually. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that little demonstration and hopefully learning from it, really. They're not just demonstrations, these videos. They are hopefully an insight into how to paint better and how to become a better artist. And painting outdoors, for me, is what it's all about, painting outdoors. It gives you a much better creative process, which is well worth persevering with. Anyway, thanks very much for watching this, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.